All right, so in this video, I'm going to give you guys the exact strategy that I use to make over $40,000 a month trading stocks. And before you think you need a shit ton of money to do this, I'll put some gains up on the screen where you can see I turned just a few $100 into tens of thousands of dollars. You can see with just a little bit of money, it's pretty easy to get some big gains like this. You just have to know what you're doing. And surprise, well, this video, I'm going to teach you exactly what the fuck to do so you know what you're doing. I got some real game for you guys in this video. Hopefully, you guys leave this with a ton of information and become better traders because that's what I want to see from you guys. I'm tired of these smart money concepts, this Forex, prop fund, whatever it's called. I don't know. I hate all that. This is some real game right here, and it took me about 6 years to master this concept. So all I ask from you guys is you like this video. That's all I'm asking. So click that like button right now before I beat you up. But yeah, let's get right into it because we don't have time to waste. We got money to make here. So first things first, the program that I'm using is called TC2000. I'll have everything linked in the description. So you can copy my exact layout. I'll have this tab and this tab, which are both like really good. You're going to get a lot of value from this because these tools are great. And I'll have a little write-up on like how you can actually install this or whatever it's called. All right, so let's go over the basics. If you're not going to use my layout, you need to know this. You need to use the daily chart, and you need to use these indicators. This is the 10, the 20, the 50, and the 200 simple moving average. I use those moving averages and volume on the daily chart. That's it. On the 1 hour, I use the 10, the 20, and the 65 exponential moving average. And then the 5 minute and the 1 minute, you can just put VWAP on because I'm going to teach you guys another strategy which you're going to need VWAP for. But that's going to be in another video. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. I'm trying to be Mr. Beast. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, so when it comes to trading stocks, now there's going to be a lot of stocks. There's like 7,000 or something. So how are we going to filter that out? Well, what we want to pay attention to first is the strongest sectors. So right here on the left, you can see these are the sectors. Now, this is healthcare, financial services, blah, 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 right? I'm not going to read all of these to you. But this basically breaks them down into categories. So if we click on healthcare, now that 7,000 is down to, let me unfilter this. Now that 7,000 is down to 100 or 1,184. Financial services has about 827. Basic materials, 300. So you get my point. Basically, if we can find the strongest performing group of stocks, then that gets us closer to finding the best stock out there. So first things first, what we want to do is identify the leading sector, the leading group of stocks. Now, there's a couple ways that you can do this. The easiest is just to go here and press on year to date or quarter to date, month to date. I mean, it's all going to be the same right now just because it's the first quarter. But we can see right here, healthcare is the strongest technically. I mean, I don't really like healthcare that much. So I would say financial services is the strongest. We can see, overall, this has been very, very strong. It's made a 65% move in 1.3 years. This one's made a pretty good move. It's up 40%, but I think financial services is still stronger. This is just calculating it based off year to date. The other one would be tech. I know has been really, really strong. This has been strong for a long time. Over the last 2.5 years, this has made a 127% move. So obviously, if we're really early into the year, this isn't going to sort it that good off the year to date change. So you can just look through these sectors in general, and you can also pay attention to what stocks are popping up, what's going on in the world. Like right now, think about it. What's going on? It's a bunch of AI. It's a bunch of tech shit. So we should probably focus on tech. I mean, financial services are doing good as well because a lot of these are crypto-related stocks and just like money in general. But overall, I think tech is one of the strongest sectors. So I'm just going to show you guys the example on tech. So looking at tech here, right now we've identified a strong sector. Maybe this isn't the strongest right now, but it looks pretty fucking good. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to filter that down even further. So what I'm looking for is the strongest. What is this set to? This is the top 10% of stocks. Now I can tighten that even more. I can make it the top 2% of stocks, and that's going to filter this out even further. So we have 68 items in this list now. So we took those 7,000 stocks, right, in total, and we brought it down to 68. So we're getting real close here. Then I'm going to sort this by dollar volume because usually where the most money is flowing is probably where the best stock is. Now, if I look at PLTR, great, very, very strong stock. You might be like, oh, well, these things are already going up. You missed out on all the money. Well, that's not true at all. The truth is that stocks go in trends. So if they're continuing to go in trends, they're in very strong groups, they're very strong stocks, most likely they're going to continue to go up. We're just looking for points where we can buy these and catch the fast parts of the stock. So I'll show you guys an example on AMD really quick. Back when this was a very, very strong stock, very, very good stock at the time. The way that stocks trend is they move in these stair-step-like patterns. So we have this big move up, then it goes sideways, big move up, then it goes sideways, big move up, then it goes sideways, and then a big move up. Our goal is to catch these parts right here. So we want these big moves up, and we want to be out of it when it's sideways because that's not going to make us money. We don't want our money sitting in something that's going sideways. We want it in when it's going up, right? So we catch these bursts right here. That is the whole goal of this. All right, so really quick, we're going on the drawing board here. So basically what I'm looking for is a stock that starts making a big move up, and it pulls back. Now, let me actually draw that out a little better, make it look more like a stock. So we want to see that it pulls back, but not only does it pull back, but it starts building a range that is tightening. So what I mean by tightening is if you're looking at this right here, what would you notice? You would notice these lower highs and higher lows. So the stock is, coming to this sort of thing. It's coming to this pinch. That is a very weird looking drawing, but hopefully you get my point. So this is what we're looking for. So take a good look at this really quick. And now take a look at AMD where it is right here. It looks damn near identical to the drawing I just made somehow. But what can we assume is going to happen to this stock if it keeps going up, sideways, up, sideways, and it's in a very strong group? It's a very strong stock in that group. What's going to happen? Is it going to continue higher? Probably. So the whole thing about trading is that we're putting the odds in our favor. Now, a lot of people like to consider it gambling, but I guess they're right. But it's gambling with the odds in your favor. And what I mean by that is if you filter out the best group of stocks, then you filter out the best stocks in that group, you're probably going to have a much higher chance of those continuing than if you just chose some random stock out there. And this setup that we're looking at is called the breakout setup. So we're looking for the big move up. We want to see it pull back. As it pulls back, we should see the volume dying out. And as it's dying out and this, range is being built, we want to see that it starts tightening up towards the end. And we usually get a thin candle just like this right towards the end of the breakout. So this thing climbs up, pulls back to the moving averages, but we don't get a clear definite range here. And then it goes up again. Again, we don't really get a clear definite range here. We kind of have one right here. The volume was dying out a little bit, and then it started to continue higher, but it just pulled right back. This range was kind of shitty, so you can kind of, use your best judgment there. And then it goes back up again, pulls back again. Built a pretty good range here. I thought it was going to continue on this day, but we didn't really have a thin day right before that. The volume was dying out very perfectly right here, and it looked like it wanted to go higher here, but it just didn't hold that. Made this move up a little bit and then pulled back, and then really came back with all this strength and then really tightened up here. The volume started declining again, and then we have the thin day right there. So that's kind of like all right, I got to watch this thing very, very closely. I got to pay attention. What happens the next day? So the stock ends up gapping up, right? It opens here. Now I want to buy this as soon as it's breaking out. I'm going to either use the 1 minute or 5 minute opening range highs. And I want to hold this for a very specific amount of time because I don't want, to be in this too long and then it turns around like this. I just want to catch this part. So one way that I catch this part, now I'll show you guys a screenshot. I'll put it up on the screen. I made 3,200% on this, which is 32 times my money. That's because I timed this very, very well. Now, I'm going to teach you guys how to time these stocks very, very well with options. It is risky, so be aware of that. But if you do it correctly, you will make a shit ton of money. All right, so looking at this stock right here, if I'm going to buy options, right, I'm going to open up my phone, go on the options chain. I'm looking at this right here. It's breaking out. It's on Thursday. Should my contracts expire on Friday, like in 1 day? Probably not. Why would I give myself only 1 day? Look at how long these runs have lasted before. 16 days. This one's, about 5 days. This one's a good, 10 days. I want to give myself at least until next Friday on that. So that's what I did on these, which is why I made a shit ton of money because this was Friday, which was the peak of the run. So I would give myself at least a week to maybe even 2 or 3 weeks as far as expiration goes. You got to really look at the stock and analyze it. The one service that I do offer, I don't really sell you guys shit, but the one thing I do offer is I will do all of this for you. So I basically tell you exactly what I'm buying, exactly what I'm selling, tons of other stuff. Just click the link in my bio if you want to check that out. I basically will tell you what I'm doing because obviously I'm experienced with this. But anyways, so how do I calculate how high this is going to go? My expiration is obviously going to be next Friday. We already determined that. How do I calculate how high this is going to go? Well, that's where this tool comes in very, very handy. So this is average daily range %. We can see that on average, this thing moves 3.07%. So understanding that we're buying these on Thursday and these expire on Friday, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, actually, this would be 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days until these contracts expire. 6 trading days. We're obviously not going to count the weekend. So we take those trading days and we multiply that by the average daily range. So we have 3.07 here. Now let's do 3.07 times 6. 3.07 times 6. That gives us 18.42. So we've chosen our expiration date. Now our strike is going to be 18.42% higher than this opening price here. So if we take this and draw it up here, 18 point something, right? That gives us about a 213 strike. So our strike is 213. As soon as we get very close to that, we're going to sell half of the position. So we can see up here it's at 211. You're going to be up thousands of percents already because that's just like a really big move in a short period of time. You're already almost at your strike. you still have time left on the contract, so these are going to be worth a lot of money. Once the stock is up like 3 to 5 days in a row, you should sell. Not the whole thing, just a portion of it. Lock in some of those profits, and then we can see that made a really good move right there. So it almost hit our strike. Our strike was what, 213 or something that we calculated, and it ended up going up to here, which is like 210 on day 3, which is really, really good, almost 211 actually. So somewhere in this day, you're going to want to trim some of that position. Not the whole thing, because you still have time on the contracts, and you want to see that this moves higher. And as soon as, that thing starts really picking up again on really high volume, you definitely want to sell the rest of it. Especially because this is on Friday. That's when the contracts are expiring. There's obviously not too much that I can teach you in a single YouTube video as far as expirations and like how to actually sell, because a lot of this is going to be based on your personal experience. Which, again, that's why the Discord is so helpful, because I can just tell you all that shit because I've done this for a very long time. But let's take a look at some other examples. So NVIDIA was one that I actually turned $800 into $54,000 in 3 days. This was a pretty crazy trade. So the same setup here, right? We have a very strong stock and a very strong group. This thing keeps making these stair-step-like patterns. Up, sideways, up, sideways, up, sideways, up, sideways. Now, this one really stood out to me here because of how tight this range was getting. We're not going to see a whole lot of the volume drop off here just because this thing was already pretty dead in terms of volume. But the candles itself, like the way this was acting, is really, really good. If I remove this lower trend line, you can see the 20 simple moving average almost draws that lower trend line for me. And then another thing you'll see is these candles start getting really, really tight here. As soon as this starts breaking out, what do? The exact same thing. We want to buy it here. We use the ADR, so 4.98. Now, if this is on Wednesday, I actually did end up buying the contracts that expired that week on Friday, which is why I made so much. Again, that's very risky. You should probably give yourself more time. But knowing that I have 3 days until expiration, let's take 5 times 3. That's 15. So my strike would be about 15% higher than this, so somewhere around like 50, right? And if we look at where this went, we can see in just 3 days, this thing went up about 12%. Actually, I do believe that the ADR was lower than 4.98 at the time. I think it was around like 3 or something. And I was pretty deep in the money on this. I had contracts like they were in the money around here, like 46-ish. I think this had a stock split. I don't know why it says 46, because my contracts were definitely not 46 strike. But yeah, basically you guys can see that. I'll give you another example too. So let's go to GameStop. Actually, this was a pretty good setup here. So if I go to GameStop and I go to the hourly, I can scroll all the way back to where this setup was. Setup works on pretty much all time frames. I like to use the daily the most because that's where the big moves happen. The hourly works as well. So we can see GameStop here starts gaining momentum. A lot of people started talking about it, pulled back, built this very good range. Let me try to zoom in on this a little more so you can see it a little clearer. So GameStop here, this is a great looking flag. Big move up, pulls back to these moving averages, builds this range. The volume is dying out the whole time, starts tightening up towards the end of the range, starts breaking out here, and the volume starts coming back in. Tons of people are buying this, so we're buying it here, and we take the ADR 5.07, multiply it by how many days we have left. This is on a Thursday, so we're obviously going to be buying the contracts for the next Friday. Now you can see if you multiply that ADR, this thing just blew that out of the water. But if we do 5 times, 3 even, it's really not going to compare because this thing went up 200 something percent. But you get the point. Like, you're going to be deeper into the money than expected majority of the times. Like, you want to always underestimate it. You want to have a lower strike. You want to give yourself more time. But yeah, this way you can hold stocks for a good period of time. You can sell these things on the way up. You scale out of the position. I have other rules for that. But like I said, there's not too much that I can teach you in just one YouTube video. Hopefully this video gives you a sense of direction and you can actually understand, how stocks move, what you should be looking for, and maybe some basic rules. But yeah, guys, please stop fucking day trading. Stop using these prop firms. If you want to turn a little bit of money into a lot of money, you got to catch something like a GameStop where it goes up 300% in just a couple days. Oh, and I also have a strategy that I can short this. So I ended up getting the puts on this day and making a few 100% on that on the way down, which is crazy. So ended up buying here, sell the top, and then go short on it or buy the puts. So basically make money on the way up, get a really good exit, and then make money on the way back down. Pretty unbeatable if you ask me. I've got some really, really good systems, and there's only so much I can really give you all in one video, but I'm going to continue making videos. If you guys like this stuff, please let me know. Actually let me know, because I need to get your guys' feedback. I need to understand what you're struggling on so I can actually help you. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I will respond to them and I will incorporate them in my next video. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. Please give me feedback so I know what to post, because I am, obviously in a different path on my journey than you guys. So I got to know what you need help with.